Hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Worth It Then Worth It Now, sort of side project we run on this channel where I look at games of yesteryear. I have a bit of a spiel that I work through, and I already looked at Battlefield 3 the other day, and on the back of that I snatched up a whole bunch of EA catalog games, Need for Speeds, Battlefields, going for a couple of dollars each, and proceeded to play a bit of this Battlefield 4, the game that we're covering today. However, we find ourselves at an interesting situation. The Steam Summer Sale, or whatever you call it, has just kicked off, and it's going on for the next 2 weeks at the time of this recording. So this seems to be still on Ultra Deep Sale. You can pick it up for a couple of dollars, so I'm going to cover it, and who knows what else I will cover it. What I'm probably going to do is sort of just run these segments in tandem across both my channels and ramp up videos just to shout out some cool games while they're on ultra deep discount, in the hope that something, tickles your fancy and I help you find your next favorite game. Anyway, with that little preamble out of the way, Battlefield 4. And honestly, going into this, I wasn't 100% sure what I was expecting because, as I said, gushing about Battlefield 3, I do have fond memories of at least half finishing the campaign from that, right? There's a pretty cool twist that I remember in the Battlefield 3 campaign I'm not quite up to yet, but going into that was a lot of nostalgia, and I played a lot of multiplayer Battlefield 3. Battlefield 4 mysteriously represents a black spot in my memory, and I couldn't quite figure it out because if you sat me down and said, what was the Battlefield 4 campaign? The only thing I could probably tell you is it's got something to do with Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart, but I don't know why I know that, and I've sort of started to muddle it out by playing the first hour or two just for B-roll to do this video. And it turns out I've never played Battlefield 4. I'm almost certain of it. Maybe I played it multiplayer or something, which would be a bit strange. I've always been kind of single player first, but there was a phase around Battlefield 3 where I was really into their multiplayer. But the game opens with just that song playing, in a kind of cinematic contrivance where you're stuck underwater in a car with a team of, Marines or SEALs or whatever the bloody hell you are, and, getting into that kind of Michael Bay absurdist scenario. But I know this scene beat for beat, and it was because at the time for E3 around, it would have been probably 2012 or something like that, right? Given the release dates. Steam says this came out in 2013. I'm pretty sure 3 was 2011. Wow, did they really put these out 2 years apart? That's incredible if they did. But I remember this was when E3 was in full swing, and it was a huge part of the presentation. And that's how I remember the song and this little scenario where they're stuck in their car underwater and how they get there and flashback to 15 minutes before, that sort of thing. So I must have seen that on E3 and been really hyped about it because it stuck with me, and I still remember it, before we were a bit more jaded about the industry. I still remember that being cool as fuck, right? Thinking, oh man, I can't wait to play this, and who knows what happened there, because I clearly missed out. Anyway, so yeah, that's how the game actually opens, the same as the E3 presser thing that was presented. And then you flash forward, and it has this kind of the same flavor as Battlefield 3, American political military thriller type thing. I love this sort of crap. Any of those movies or books, I love them. I'll lap it up. And so I found myself in the most unique of scenarios. As someone that plays bazillions of games and covers everything, here is a time capsule of a game, of a series, of a whole setting that I really like, that I actually know nothing about and I accidentally skipped. And it opens with your dudes doing like a runaway escape sequence where a meet goes wrong, and it's cool. It has some actually fairly understated and yet bombastic stuff, like the last man on your team's coming in hot and comes flying out of a restaurant front window with a dog attached to him biting his arm, and it all just pops off from there. Oh, it's very cool, and that all goes into getting chased along. They've introduced a whole bunch of mechanics, which, it depends how you want to see it. Coming straight off the back of Battlefield 3 the other day, it dirties it up a little bit. Like, I'm playing on mouse and keyboard, but you've got like this Q ability you can hold to paint targets, you can press it to tell your dudes to engage, you sort of lead your fire team. It's a little messy, and they throw a lot of stuff at you, like customizable loadouts in the middle of a mission. A bit gamey, but that's fine. I know that's how it is and how COD and all that does it, but it is interesting, the transition point between sort of what I played of Battlefield 3 and this. it actually feels like a pretty big pivot to throw these gamey mechanics in, and it kind of felt a bit overwhelming as opposed to the cleaner on-ramp of Battlefield 3. And look, and then that jumps forward into this story that's kicking off into some sort of intrigue in China of all places. So this is all very fascinating. And, I was playing through a level where you're in this rain-soaked Shanghai or wherever the bloody hell it is. Chinese city. I can't actually remember what they said, but I think there's a coup going on and, it's turning into civil unrest. And to me, it's like I was trying my best to pay attention, but it seems like such a stretch to put US Special Forces troops on the boots on the ground in a Chinese city in the midst of all of this. But okay, whatever. Yeah, so you have to go into this hotel room skyscraper and fight your way through and extract dudes out. And it has this sort of darker, grittier, modern neon, almost not quite neo-noir, but there is this dark, slick vibe to it, which kind of contrasts a bit against Battlefield 3. But, as far as sequels go, it's always good to have a bit of a pivot. So yeah, look, I've only put a little bit of time into it. It's really cool. I'm really impressed. It is, like I said, I had that nostalgia layer with Battlefield 3 going in, and while I recognize that some of the graphics are dated, most of them are outrageously ahead of their time and hold out really well. You might get some low-res textures and some repeat assets, but in the scheme of things, the entire world and just level design and the general flow of the gameplay loop held up so well. And so looking at this as the fairly close sequel on the back of the previous game, and yet it turns out I have zero nostalgia or anything for it, it still stands the test of time, in my opinion, when looking at it through a fresh set of eyes. So yeah, look, it feels like it was trying to add stuff for the sake of adding stuff. Maybe I'm supposed to be stealthing through and stealth taking down these dudes, but it is kind of linear. You're putting all these guys in front of me. As soon as I pull the trigger, it's going to raise the alarm and everything's going to go hot. So maybe it's just stealth for a couple of kills and then keep going. But on the other side of it, giving me these loadouts, and here you go, here's a gadget box with 1 million claymores in it, and the next wave of dudes are just going to run like nut jobs. So put the claymores everywhere and just blow them up. So you're on the 70th floor of this luxury hotel skyscraper, just blowing dudes out the balcony with claymores and doing a helicopter escape on the top, and it's just really good. It is really bombastic. So yeah, they add some stuff in, they dirty it up a little bit, but at the same time, there was still fun to be had with, all the gadgets and crap that they added. You'll notice that all of this is absent from saying anything about the multiplayer. I'm not trying to avoid it, but the way I see this exchange in this time, years later, is that for what, $2, $2.50, I could pick up the Battlefield 4 campaign, and it's just primo. Much like I said with Battlefield 3, if this were to release in current year, it would probably blow a lot of the high profile stuff away. Obviously, there's some fidelity degradation over time as far as graphics, but as far as a bombastic experience, your AAA popcorn Michael Bay explosion fest with a bit of Americana political mill thrill thrown in there, you cannot go wrong for $2. So I highly recommend you check that out. Now look, further to that, I've also picked up, Battlefield 1, which I played a lot of, and I really got into the multiplayer in that, but not so much the campaign. And Battlefield 5, which at the time I barely played. I remember everyone was poo-pooing it. There was a lot of drama around it, but I grabbed them. I grabbed a bunch of the Need for Speed games. I remember, I think, was it Payback? I played, but I didn't cover on the channel, and I was actually blown away by how fun that, again, the Michael Bay type narrative was. But I don't think I'm going to just keep covering these games on an EA spree, especially now that the ground has changed beneath my feet with the summer sale kind of sneaking up on me. I should have paid more attention, but here it is. So if you've made it this far and you're curious, drop me a comment if there's any particular games that maybe are on sale, or maybe I've even covered in the past on this or the main channel, and you'd be interested in seeing that, or checking it out before you take the plunge and buy something. Or otherwise, I'm just going to go through a list of games that I've really enjoyed and probably ramp production on both channels and put a bunch of videos out over the next couple of weeks, just to celebrate the sale and put things on your radar. But suggestions welcome, absolutely. Anyway, team, might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.